Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. Hi, everybody.
Hello again.
What up? What up?
Hello. Can I have a not so humble brag on here?
Yes, by all means.
Listen,
Go shoot.
my lemon tree, she be producing.
Wow.
And I now have so many lemons. I tried to space them out. Like, I've been harvesting them, right? And just like letting them hang on the tree and different stuff. But they're so ripe now, they're just falling off the tree when I like accidentally bump into it. So now I have huge bag of lemons.
So is this like in a greenhouse or inside your home? Where's this lemon tree
This
at?
is currently, she is in a stock tank in the greenhouse.
Gotcha.
Stock tank on a cart in the greenhouse.
This is
So-
the one that
Really
you
very
took
happy.
custody of from a person, right? That you,
Yes. She has been mine for about 6 years-ish. And
Oh, wow, I can't believe it's been that long.
I know, I can't either. I thought about that.
Not that
Maybe
long
a little
ago.
bit longer because it went through at least one winter in another location. So, but yes, it was brought with a friend from Colorado, and she brought it to Kentucky and had it in a greenhouse in Kentucky. And it was in the stock tank when I got it. It's probably not really grown, but she be producing some lemons. Super
Damn.
happy. She also has scales, so I'm not that great of a citrus grower because it also has insect problems. But lots of lemons. I made a lemon cake yesterday, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a lemon cake. It used all of like 2.5 lemons. I'm gonna need to make a lot of cake.
You're going to have a lot of zest on hand at some point.
You should make limoncello.
Well,
Yes,
I
you
looked into
should.
that, and you can do it, but like the Meyer lemon I grow is a thin skin, and so they usually recommend a thick skin because there's less white pith involved. But I might do it anyways because I have a lot of lemons.
I would do it anyway.
I mean, make lemonade. You know, this
But then I
winter's
need
been
to
tough.
I'm like, do I just juice those lemons and freeze the lemon juice
Hmm.
if I don't have an immediate use for it? Because once you take the skin off,
The clock is ticking.
I know it's 2 parts here.
Would you say that you had an aspiration to grow lemons at some point, or is this more of an issue of worlds collide, things happen,
Victim of your
you're a
own
plant
success,
person, so it
yeah.
makes sense?
I think I didn't really realize it was a possibility until I met somebody with a greenhouse, and then at that point you're kind of like, oh well, I'll never have a greenhouse. That would be really cool, and I would love to do it, but that won't be me. It's not my life, and it became it. So it's a mix of both.
Your whole personality. So
I never don't want to grow a plant. I feel like.
I feel like figs are maybe in your future as well. All these things.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it with you.
Well, some people they'll like see something somewhere and they'll be like, "That's what I want to do." Like at some point in my life, I am going to grow a lemon tree, or like there'll be people who ask me, like, "Oh, did you see bonsai in Karate Kid, and then you wanted to do that for forever?" And I was like, "No," because until the first time that I was asked that. People find out that a lot of people say that. But the first time I was asked that, it reminded me that was even a part of the plot of Karate Kid 2,
Yeah, I wouldn't
maybe.
have thought about it from Karate Kid, but yeah.
That's one of the first things I think about with Karate Kid. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That and those beautiful old cars and the bonsai tree. Yeah.
It did not. I remember much more the like
Punching.
wax on, wax off.
Wax on,
followed
wax
by,
off,
like,
yeah.
punching the wooden thing.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah.
Absolute legend.
Looks I remember that more. And also
awesome?
just Ralph, was it Ralph Macchio? His cute little, dimples, and I remember that as well. But
I may have dressed up as that shower from that movie at multiple events in my life. The shower curtain he goes into, because it's an easy one, and you just kind of put the pipe up your back, and it's an easy one. But I was always disappointed when you walked into the room and they just thought you were weird. They had no idea what the reference. I'm like, come on, people, where's my 80s babies at?
Or if people love shower, like you found out that you love shower curtains, and they're like, "Oh, do you love them because of the Karate Kid?" And you're like, "No, I just have an independent passion for this." Okay,
Yeah, I really love it. I
not
really like
all
the
of it
movie
came from that
Socko
moment.
and the shower scene in Socko. Yeah, that's not it, people. That's not it. It's Karate Kid. Okay.
So, Alexis,
Yeah.
you just sort of generally manifested your plant love, and the
Mhm.
fact that you worked a bunch in the greenhouses at the University of Kentucky while you were studying and working there.
Yeah,
Now
chop
you
the
have your
lemon tree.
own, so let's do
Yeah.
this lemon thing. Is that
Yeah,
the
send me
main?
your lemon recipes, people.
Is that the main thing that you have in there that's like not a wild roots thing, or is there what other kind of stuff you got in there?
Whatever, like random plants that make me no money, but I hold on to them type of plants.
Those are the ones, yeah.
I have dragon fruit plants in there that I grew from seed just to see if I could, and now they are outrageous and they're very prickly because they are cacti, and
Mhm.
which makes them very difficult to move around, and they are very floppy cacti, and they're normally trellised up in like production. They kind of get trellised because they
Mhm.
almost like vine in a way,
Like if
but
someone were
they're
producing the dragon fruit. Is
yes,
that what you're talking
correct.
about? Yeah.
Yep, yep. So they tend to they're a creeper of a cacti if they're just left to their
Damn.
own devices.
Hmm.
And yeah, therefore it's like creeping out of its pot. So there's like these huge, very prickly cacti. And so every time I go to move the flat they're in, I get stabbed. But I raise these babies from seed. I've already let go of a lot of them. I feel like I can't
You
kill
have
these.
investment. Yeah.
I
It
know, but they're
feels
such a pain in the butt.
it feels a little bit like if you had hatched a dragon from an egg and you're like,
Correct.
"I did
You're the
this, and
mother of
yeah,
It's
it
my
dragons.
child. I'm
keeps
gonna
burning
like
my
take
hair
care
and
of
like
it,
scratching
but
me and stuff," and
Where
like
is
I'm pissed
Jessica
about
on the
it.
podcast when we make a Game of Thrones reference? You're the mother of dragons, literally.
mm,
I mean,
mother of dragon fruit.
Mother
yes,
of
mother
dragon
of dragon fruit.
fruit.
We should have a whole special or a comment section dedicated to what's in Alexis, what random plants are in Alexis's greenhouse, unintentionally or intentionally, and just make it a kind of a guess segment where you guess on what it may be in there. I'm guessing like jade plant somewhere's in the corner, like some kind of jade tree. I mean, I'm seeing
Well,
some things
so
emerge.
there's the house plants, then there's the
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
call it the propagation house because it's like, yes, it's technically a greenhouse, but I'm
Justification.
predominantly using it for the times when I'm propagating plants versus like when you think of a greenhouse, you think of year round plants are in there. In the summertime, I close it up, nothing's inside. It's just too high and I don't deal with
Mm.
it. So it's a propagation house. And all my house plants are in the house except for the dragon fruit and the lemon tree because I can't fit it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the dragon fruit and the lemon tree are size considerations. Is that the main?
Yeah, size as well as just like I don't want to bump into it in the corner in my pajamas.
Because the
Yeah.
lemons might fall off.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing.
The dragon.
For fun. So yeah, we were segued in, and then I was just mainly curious what you were keeping in that greenhouse. But
Well, that kind of is it, though, isn't it? I mean, how did Alexis get here?
yeah,
I
what
mean,
what
how do you?
happened to you as a
I,
child?
I mean,
Well, the aliens dropped me off.
what in your formative years led you to a greenhouse and
You see,
dragon
on my
fruit?
planet, we do not have chlorophyll.
We do not have green. How do we get
Oh,
here?
But the idea of like, okay, I saw this in a movie when I was a kid. I think a lot of people have that experience, and they may want to.
Mhm.
It may inform what you want to do with your career, with your life in general,
mhm,
or it may inspire you to take a trip somewhere. Like, I really
totally.
want to go see the Alps because I saw them in a
New
movie.
Zealand because I watched The Hobbit.
Right, New Zealand,
Absolutely.
and so I was curious, and I sent a text out to the pod squad to think about like, okay, what are some pop cultural references or experiences that you had as a kid that you think like maybe not impacted your decision to be a plant person, but they have like a distinct plant component that you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I really like that. Or even you just remembered it could have, maybe it terrorized you.
Yeah.
Whatever variation on
Need
that
me
you
see
wanted.
more?
And I was just curious what was going to come, what came to mind. And, our lifespan, I think we spent time as children in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like as a group here. And so that's the time period we'll be reflecting on. So you won't get any, 1920s references as far as I would expect.
I actually have a 1950s reference, but other than that.
Okay. Well then.
Yeah, and you say we're talking about, I guess today, Brett, pop culture. Is that correct? Not necessarily our natural lived-in environment or growing up. We're just
not necessarily the academic journals we were reading as children.
Some sort of media, or
not like grandma had a beautiful dogwood, or like one of your other crazy folksy stories that makes me realize how hollow my childhood was. Ray,
we're talking Saturday morning
shared like. Oh, remember that movie that was out? And you had some good ones, Ray, that you texted back almost immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about like from the books you read to the shows you watch and cultural references that you see. But, we were talking a little bit about the show before we started recording today to see what kind of content we had. But there's some things immediately popped out. And one of the first things I thought of as we were talking, as far as just being aware of plants, as far as pop culture. And I consider literature pop culture one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be visual media.
I've got books as well. Okay, some of us are also into books.
Alexis all of a sudden she chirped up. I mean, she's here for it. I knew Alexis would be.
There will be books as well.
I try to think of the books that I loved as a child. And one of my first series box sets I ever read was like Little House in the Big Woods. And the one of the characters was the environment, was trees, and that the Boxcar Children. That series, it described the natural environment that they were in, and I gravitated towards literature that I loved. Hearing about characters camping and going through the woods and the natural environment, and Tolkien.
And Little House in the Big Woods is Laura Ingalls Wilder, right?
Yes,
same as Little House on the Prairie, but different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that series of books, the Little House books. But to me, the one of the main characters was the environment there, and the way that things were described. But my favorite all-time series, I love J.R.R. Tolkien, and I love the descriptions of the natural environment, the adventures that they had, and Ints. I thought the trees talked for the longest time, and I was when I read there was a children's book version of the longer work that I read later, and I was so disappointed when I found out trees couldn't talk. I was really disappointed. I was like,
maybe they just don't talk to you.
No, maybe they don't.
Maybe you're not listening right.
Maybe I am not doing the right kind of listening. But I think of literature right off the bat, and things that I like to read as a kid. Some of the first.
So just to be clear, you read the adult Lord of the Rings as a child, and the child one as an adult.
Exactly. Maybe simultaneously. I read the abridged version of The Hobbit in 6th grade, and then I started Lord of the Rings when I was in 8th grade, and then finished that when I was a freshman.
That feels beautiful. I really like that.
Good stuff. But I mean, it described plants and the White Tree of Gondor. I mean, what's not to love, people? Come on. I mean, to me, every time I see a sycamore tree like at Keeneland in Central Kentucky, I'm like, that's the White Tree of Gondor. I whisper to myself every single time. Single time.
Extremely ripped off by George R.R. Martin, by the way.
We're not going to talk about any crossover liberties. No,
doesn't matter.
I'm not going to mention anything. But yeah, that's some of the things that I think about that, didn't necessarily set me out on my specific path and extension, but it sort of cultivated, no pun intended, sort of cultivated my interest in certain directions.
A very slight Lord of the Rings thing about plants. I remember when the Fellowship arrives, starts hanging out with the elves, and the elves have like in the movie it's like chard that the hobbits are like, what the heck is this? Like, I'm more of a tater guy, and this is like some kind of leafy green. I remember thinking that was really funny, and also like, hilarious. I haven't seen a lot of leafy veg in the Lord of the Rings so far.
No. Well, there was my favorite. We don't know what that is.
One of my favorite quotes from The Hobbit, when I'm like out eating salad or something with someone, and I'm just like, I don't like green food.
Yeah, and you can identify the people that's your people in the room when they look at you and they're like, yeah. Tolkien famously said, one of the main themes, and I think I sent this to you, Alexis, and I love it because he said his hero in the book. I mean, and it was a famous interview. I forget. With the BBC or whatever, years and years ago, was that his main character, the hero of the book, was Sam, and he was a gardener, and he kind of did a reflection between growing things and a mechanized war, the wars that were going on, and kind of in the industrial things going on at that time period. But his hero was a gardener, and that was a very important theme in those books. And I always thought a lot about that. Once I learned that later on, I was like, yeah, horticulture. Yeah, I was like, winning. Yes, yes. So winning. But yeah, that's one of the things I think of.
What about you, Brett?
I was going to ask you next.
No, I want to know yours next.
Brett's like, I was not prepared for this.
Well, and we all have multiples, so
we
you can
do.
just do one, and we'll just round table it.
Yeah,
well, I'll go in a different. I'll go in a different direction than either books or movies, and talk about in video games. So in Mario, it's this character that's like it's like a plant that like can chomp and bite, and it kind of has some similarities and carryover with the Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of energy of like this idea of carnivorous plants or of and I don't remember feeling like afraid of them necessarily. I remember feeling like, ooh, I mean, obviously I avoided it because I wanted to win the game, but and otherwise, like it was a lot like Mario 64, 1964 from the Nintendo 64. All of the other things were kind of flat, flat plains, and it was green because it was grass. But that was this that was one that came to mind, and then another one that came to mind was the rose from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
under the glass thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of got this magic about it.
It was declining. Yeah.
Symbol of senescence and the passage of time and the magic of regrowth. And I thought that was a pretty impactful one as far as it didn't necessarily make me want to grow roses per se, but it cued me into that
magic
plant cycle. Yeah. And you, Alexis?
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you about one that a memory that has been fairly recently unlocked, but like it's been unlocked in such a major way of just like all these memories of watching it. It's a movie called A Troll in Central Park, and it's from like 1994.
Wow.
And it's an animated movie. And so this troll is just this sweet little troll. His name is Stanley, and he has a green thumb, and it's like visibly green. He's magic, right? And so he can actually grow. He like pushes his thumb down on stuff and grows flowers and like all kinds of stuff everywhere. And so I have once that was like unlocked in my brain, I just think I have all of these memories of just sitting down and watching that movie on VHS.
Wow, it's like an animated movie.
Yeah, it's an old school animated movie.
And his thumb is like glowing green.
Glows green, and he presses it and like creates these like sentient, flowers and vines and all these different things. And he takes these kids through Central Park, and they're escaping the evil queen and all of these different things. But that's that one. It's like it's so I'm like, I feel like I am Stanley now, or I get to try to be Stanley now.
Literally, I mean, yeah.
The vibe of that is reminding me of another one that you mentioned earlier of FernGully.
Yes, FernGully is also on my list. Same time period.
Kind of the spectrum of like that one seems to be more of like a gardening, growing, that type of thing. FernGully is more about this environmental awareness about deforestation. And I remember there's a scene. What reminded me of it was his glowing thumb, and I was like, "What is the memory that is triggering?" And it was like I think it's the main female character is like holding a seed in her hand, and it like glows. And I was like, "Oh, that reminded me of that."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. She plants it after
what a crazy cast that had.
There's so many good people, and when you rewatch it, it's like FernGully is streamable, and I watched it fairly recently because it was one of my favorite movies growing up, and you start hearing the voices and you're like, and like I start IMDbing it and seeing all these really famous people who are in this movie, and a lot of them did it for I think free or low money, and all that money went to like environmental agencies and stuff, but I could have made that up. That was a dream I had once.
Yeah. Well, it feels to me like that fits in that. Ray brought up that Ray's response was about the ants and a lot of the Tolkien stuff, but also like you mentioned mall interior scapes in the 80s.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you flesh that out?
And that's something I've always noticed. It's the first thing I do, and I don't know if you guys do this to this very day. I go up and feel if plants are real because the fake ones have gotten good. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with like succulents, I'm like, is that real? And I go up and I have to know if it's real or not. But even in the 80s, I thought that it was so interesting to see these ficus trees or, these different plants. You see pothos or whatever you have that's on the interior scapes of malls, trees and stuff. And bringing the outdoor environment in was always so interesting to me, and it felt so, for lack of a better word, felt so rich and luxurious to when you walked in a hotel lobby or you went into them. I always thought of malls because there's nothing more
Mm-hmm.
iconic in the 80s than malls. But to see plants on the inside to bring the outside world in, it just felt like a luxury. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like it kind of brought, a different dimension inside. And if you added
Mm-hmm.
water to that, even better. Other natural elements, but that really shaped a lot of my thinking. Early on, I associated with like interior plants, indoor plants as like with luxury.
Well, yeah,
It's
and
weird that you.
good.
I was saying it's weird that you bring this up because I just got a text message from a good friend of mine who was like, "Did you all know that you could just like be the person who like designs indoor plantscapes?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." I
I
said,
did a little bit of
where do you
that.
think
Yeah,
plan out the malls? And she was like, "I didn't know this was a real job."
somebody has to take care of those, right? And it takes a
Yeah.
budget and it takes
It's
intentionality,
it's
and
hardcore,
yeah,
right? Like
it
a
is. It is.
plant dies and everybody and their brother sees it.
I think
Well,
it adds a layer, adds a dimension. Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
sense of luxury, I think, it's a blend of luxury and it's also like there's a softness to it too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That I'm thinking of an era where you're building a lot of very like angular
Yeah.
metal glass
Industrial.
corporate chic industrial feeling buildings. It was
Mm-hmm.
really important to do that, and I think also
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of those malls would have glass, like
Yeah.
part of the ceiling
Like
would be glass,
atrium
like
kind of.
skylight
Yeah.
atrium kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of is like this recapturing of this, what I associate with like an old school English estate with a glass
Mhm.
greenhouse on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
again, back to that notion of luxury. And I think about now, like the houseplants we have in our house, like all the plants we have in our house and stuff, it would feel really weird without them there,
Yeah.
despite the
Mhm.
fact that they weren't there for the first even 8-9 years we lived here. That's a funny one. But Ray, you pointed out, like in the 80s, there was kind of maybe like a, how did you describe like the difference between the 80s and the 90s? Because for me, the 90s, one of the a touchstone plant, the impact of the plants on the film was Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
Mhm.
where you just felt like, I mean, I think they filmed it in Borneo or somewhere, or maybe it was supposed to be set in Borneo or whatever, but like a rainforest. And if you're in and near a rainforest, you're gonna be dominated by plants and other organisms too. But
Yeah. You're going into the green wall. Yeah.
what was the thing you were saying about the 90s?
It seems like just thinking back, which that's looking back a long time now for me. Okay, people, that's going way back. I came of age in the '80s. I'm an '80s baby. I consider that, but it seems like in the '80s, trends were more. I don't know if it was kind of the domination of plants. That if you were a plant in the '80s, you were going to be sheared to a very formal shape. You were going to be controlled and put in a certain way. And now that you can't apply that universally, but just that was just kind of an armchair observation I had made looking back on the '80s, that there wasn't such a focus that the '90s had. Once we got to the '90s, we had like Rainforest Cafe went mainstream. Okay, there was restaurants dedicated to jungle themes. There was Captain Planet. We mentioned FernGully, Once Upon a Forest, and all of these other movies and pop culture. Something shifted between the '80s and the '90s. I don't know if it was a certain amount of social awareness or what
Mhm.
exactly, what group or series of
Environmental
events.
groups.
Yeah, what led to that? But there's definitely a shift for me going from the '80s to the '90s, that there's much more awareness, than there was. Just for me personally. Once again, probably not a universal
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty right on. Like a kind of focus on alleged progress in technology and modernization through the 80s, along with kind of like a certain economic optimism followed by a real lack of economic optimism coming into the 90s, and then you have like the kind of Clinton year resurgence of, okay, it's the economy and we're going to fix that, and we're going to, but it turns out there's all these environmental reports coming out that, global warming, as they called it then, and that the pollution and other things are having these effects, and you have this emergence of like I guess that was the third wave of feminism, or like a new wave of feminism, a new wave of sexual revolution, et cetera, kind of paralleling in the 60s, that there was this reconnection with nature in a similar way of the flower children of the 60s. So I don't think that that's off, like super off at all. I think it was really like, oh yeah. And I would be very curious to see a media studies piece about that.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, for me to notice that at that age, or to reflect back on it, must have been big for it to get through this thick demeanor.
We all know that's not true, Mr. Blue Side of the Mountain.
It must have been pretty significant because, and it's easier to see once I look back on it. We got to talking about it. I was like, yeah, you guys mentioned all these really super cool pop references. And I was like, yeah, I kind of felt that in the 90s. And of course, I attended a certain type of college at that time in the mid 90s. And, it was first and foremost and ag and natural resources became sustainable ag and natural resources degree. Even the degrees were changing names at that time in academia. There started to be, this huge wave of talk of sustainability and considerations beyond the now. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, environmental groups, if that was the genesis of that, or just, the environmental factors or what led to that. But I felt it, yeah, in pop culture, and it was expressed all across pop culture. You guys had mentioned even more, pop culture references. The jungle theme was, throughout.
We had like the Jungle Book came
I
out
was
in
going
the
to say Kipling,
90s.
yeah.
And
the book and the Disney.
What was the movie? With the game, the Jungle Game, Jumanji.
Oh, Jumanji.
Yeah, I think about the drums and
the vines that were like, attacking you. You had to get through them, and all the different ones. Yeah.
But
what else? Who else has got one?
Time.
Brett, you got another one? Other than the Karate Kid?
Yeah, you mentioned
the Karate Kid, which set me on my path to become a bonsai guy.
Which, Brett, did I hear you right when you said, "Oh, I didn't really think about the bonsai much when I was watching Karate"? Did you just say that?
I did not even remember that it happened.
Absolutely shocked.
There was because like in the first one, it's like this tool of discipline, or like this tool to demonstrate discipline and peace and whatever. And I think in the second one, one of his bonsai gets stolen.
There's one where he's like in Japan, like collecting the bonsai,
and
they like pull it up with a rope or something.
Yeah,
it became one of the characters. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, Ray, I'm not a big Hollywood guy. I'm more about Broadway than I am more about Main Street than I am about Wall Street, or I don't know, whatever.
It's
whatever other thing I need to say.
Kind of vibe, yeah.
No, I just never thought about it because honestly, I wasn't really a big plant person until I was older, like much older, and so that's why I was kind of curious from your all's perspective if you had some formative memories of plants or something that that you saw. Alexis, you said that you were a secret garden girly back in the day.
Yeah, I you just said that, and it just made me think of like plants have always been like a part of some like point into my life, in the way of it wasn't like, it doesn't feel formative in the same way of like, oh, there was this revolution in my brain of like, plants are here and I can do something. It was just sort of like they've always been there. It'd be weird if they weren't. And so it's more like that. And like, yes, I took it a lot further and was like, I'm going to have all of these degrees. But it was just, we had the garden. My mom loved her, flower, like had really large established flower gardens outside. Like she knew about trees. It was just like, you spent time in the woods, and I don't know, it just was, there was just like this nature of, I don't know any other way to be. So I'm just going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, my grandmother always had like dried. I always thought it was so fascinating. She would have things drying on her porch all the way around, whether it was shucky beans or whether it was garlic braided. But I was like,
Yeah.
my granny's a witchy woman. I didn't know what to call it. But like, there's all these herbs and stuff that grandmother always had drying out on a kind of an old tin porch, and it was just interesting, like you said, Alexis. I mean, that's not pop culture. I know we're diverging over a little bit,
It's not pop culture,
but I mean, these are the things that, big things that formed us. And we've talked some about that before, as far as our experience, just experiences in general growing up. I
I
remember
have
that.
a book that I brought up before, but for a different like reason. Those of you who've been listening for a while know that like my goal is to one day be a falconer. And one of the books that inspired me when I was really young is My Side of the Mountain. But like one of the things before I like kind of knew falconry was a real thing, like when I was younger, the reason I loved My Side of the Mountain is because he lived in a tree. Like that was the best part, was like he lived in a tree, like said lived off the land, and then like he had this falcon that helped him live off the land.
You're
But
making me
that
think
was
of a
like
children's book, Alexis. What's with the little bunny curled up in the hollow tree? I am a bunny. I am a bunny. That's
I don't know that
when you
one.
said that. But yeah, if that's one of the first kids books I ever remember, and I'd forgotten
Oh,
about that
really?
until this time. But
Yeah,
I am
I
a
just like
bunny.
I wanted to live in a tree in the woods.
So
Like I
cool, yeah.
still kind of want to live in a tree. I still
Still, you
absolutely
have
want to live in a
aspirations.
tree
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
woods. So any book where it was like someone was like living off the land, but like in the forest. I don't know why I didn't become a forester. Somehow I got
I
into another
almost
direction,
did.
but
Yeah, I was infatuated with forestry, and that started my love of like what you're describing there is love of ecosystems and systems in general,
yeah.
just as they relate to each other. And then I went down the mushroom path, while I was in college, and the mycorrhizal kind of things, and yeah, the systems
Apparently I've been
working
like
together.
planning for the apocalypse and to live off the land since I was a child. All my favorite books were like someone is lost in the wilderness and they must survive.
Yeah, that checks a lot. That checks out a lot.
That checks a lot of boxes, Alexis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll share something about myself that gives a count. It's not about plants, but it's a counter that when I was a kid, I legitimately the boogeyman concept was specifically Saddam Hussein in my closet.
Very specific. Very specific.
But not what was the other one you were threatened with? The toe?
The toe woman was more of a cultural thing.
Okay.
In my family.
Creepy.
A woman who had a necklace where the jewels on the necklace were the toe bones of children who were caught out of bed without permission. So that was transplanted, right? But I was more about the WMDs that turns out, let's not, we're going all the way back, because this is making me realize as we talk about all the other things, as you all talk about, you became plant people. I still, and I should have known, white guy in America wasn't good odds, but I still have not painted with all the colors of the wind.
Oh man, you're going back to Disney. I love it.
Yeah, I never heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon.
Yeah,
I haven't met a grinning bobcat to ask why he grins.
You even mentioned like Beauty and the Beast. I mean, the plant references in that group of work by that company is pretty amazing when you consider, all the animated series.
Grandmother Willow.
Yes.
The best.
Yes.
It doesn't get better than Grandmother Willow.
So
I was like, oh, that's the Entwives. I thought immediately as a child when I first saw that, I thought that's the Entwives, and no, it wasn't. Unfortunately, I was dashed.
So, okay, here's a little side quest question for you. If you could have an ancient tree spirit whom you could go and seek for counsel or just hang out and vibe with or whatever, movable like an ent or not, either way, what species do you think you would pick that you would want that you would want for your spirit homie to be?
American Beach.
You're obsessed with it.
Not a tricolor?
I mean, first of all, can you blame me? Second of all, the American Beach is like the bark, the skin, like I could just see like the creases of the ancient wise,
and it's very ghostly in the woods. Like it looks like a spirit.
Yeah, and in the winter time, it just like holds on all of its leaves, so it looks like a little ghosty.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you judged me right there for that,
So
but I'm gonna let it go.
no, I'm saying let's get one planted because that's like you want to get one planted, and I'm like,
My
if you
2026
want,
goal.
let's get it in the ground so that your tree homie can start taking root.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Walk in the garden and plant a seed. We've not even talked about music, by the way. What was that? I veered off there. Walked in the garden, planted a seed. That's lyrics, but yeah, I digress.
Let me
I forget what that song is.
something about peaches and shaking a tree.
Yeah, well,
Watermelon
millions of
crawl?
peaches
What?
for free. That's a different song. Yeah.
Watermelon crawl.
The watermelon crawl that features a plant that prominently features a
Sorry, I'm a
horticulture thing.
horticulturist, so watermelon.
I love the fact that you immediately went to watermelon crawl. I did
Watermelon
not
crawl?
see that coming. Not
Wow,
in a
yeah,
million. I kind of did.
it's a good outside guess. That's a
We went
sort
from-
of 90s country
Yeah,
anthem
we went
for
from ethereal, beautiful, ghostly beach trees to crawling.
taking the stance
crawl.
against impaired driving, might I add.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Well, what's your
Drink, don't
tree,
drive,
Brett?
do the watermelon crawl.
I don't want to move on without
What's
knowing
your
your tree.
ancient spirit tree?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Should we be so
I'm kind
lucky?
of looking for good ideas. I think a hemlock could be really cool.
Yeah.
I tend to be like an evergreen kind of guy.
Like Suga.
Willow is a
Cannabis.
really good shout for one. Obviously, for the was it Mother
Grandmother
Willow?
Willow.
Grandmother Willow.
Grandmother Willow.
That's a really good shout. I don't know. Do you have one, Ray?
I'd probably have to go back to sycamore. I mean, just because I absolutely
that's
love
right.
the
That's right.
bark
You
on
said
that. And
that.
the white. It's the white. I love that on that. It's very
Well, the branch, all the crazy branch angles on sycamores are
and
also
the
just
exposure in the
insane.
wintertime. And it's got little balls that can fly down and hit you in the head. I mean, it's great. It's wonderful.
Idiot. Why did you do
it's like here, if it has projectiles it can throw at you. Absolutely. Alexis, absolutely. Yeah.
If Josh were here, he would say like a bur oak or something.
Probably some
or
very
chinkapin
fun and
oak.
functional. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. That's a tough one, Brett. Yeah, good question.
I feel like I want one that's like a little more zany. You know, I feel like an oak tree or like a sycamore. I mean, not a sycamore, a redwood or something like that is sequoia. It's a little
too obvious.
It's a little like
on the nose. Yeah.
Cool. Like that's why I like willow as an option.
Maybe a sneaky understory tree.
A ginkgo would probably be
ancient
wild.
Tree. Yeah.
It'd be like
I'm dropping all my leaves.
Imagine grandmother ginkgo throwing stinky fruit at you and just be like, you idiot.
Yeah.
You fool.
People that we don't like, we claim their spirit tree as Bradford pears.
Don't
put that
you
on
are
anyone.
giving Bradford pear tree spirit right now.
Negative
energy.
Let's just say.
Yeah. I think that might be my what I'm gonna like if I'm have to be mean to people or like call them off. I'm just gonna be like, you're really giving some Bradford pear energy right now, and I'm gonna need you to switch that up to something better. Thanks.
Before I break your branch off.
An ice storm is coming for you, Bradford pear.
An ice storm is coming. Winter is coming. Just say winter is coming.
The windstorm is coming. Yeah. I am the wind.
I sense a strong wind out of the west.
That's throwing literal shade, Alexis. That's throwing literal shade. When you tell somebody they have weak branch angles, don't ever do that. With a botanist, you're going to call
that a branch angle?
Yeah. Wow. Your embedded bark is hideous. Yeah. Just go at it. Go at them. Yeah.
Well, so what about any more recent? Any like? Do you have?
Avatar. How do we forget Avatar? Mm-hmm. That's a systems movie. You guys mentioned trees, Brett, and I haven't watched the latest Avatar. There's a third one, but the first and
I haven't seen either of those.
Like
sequels.
The original one was, prominently featured the forest and how the forest interacted as a one singular system.
Yeah,
in there was a mythology of Gaia, this overarching entity, but it basically was a forest system, an ecosystem where things are interconnected. But that's more modern, I was thinking.
Yeah. I kind of saw that as like a blend of forest and fungal.
Yeah,
networking energy.
Exactly,
which was really cool.
Aspens and
one single large, organism. I was trying to think in more recent. I'm trying to think.
One of the movies you talked about, like the the environment being a big part of the movie or of the whatever. One of them that I go back and watch regularly, not for the plot, but just because of the feel of it, including a lot of trees and plants, is The Revenant.
Oh, yeah.
Leo
Which environment
DiCaprio.
versus man kind of thing almost.
So brutal. Because the bear attack got a lot of hype,
Yeah.
and it was intense, but just thinking that these trees that have survived dozens, hundreds of years have gone through this cycle that he's experiencing this one time over and over and over again. And how, the interaction. I watched a really interesting YouTube video called just recently called Reading the Forested Landscape. It's by this dude, or it featured this guy who's a professor up at a place called Antioch College. And he was talking about essentially being able to do a little bit of a forensic botanical analysis of the space just by seeing different things. And he talked about these things called pillows and cradles, where uprooted trees have fallen over and created a pillow, and then what's behind is the cradle. And anyway, it just made me think about that kind of that movie and that feeling of existing within the environment of the plants, and just focusing on how humanity is just a part of that, and often to our damage.
Yeah.
That movie, I have a vivid memory of watching for the first time and being
very visceral. Yeah.
What is happening? And
it's
I was young.
So
I watched with my
intense.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was I don't know if I should be watching this. I was I don't. They were it's rated R, but it's not the kind rated R you can't watch. And I was oh, okay. And I remember I don't actually think I should be watching this. I don't.
It's very.
You won't see any nudity, but you will see a dude getting his absolute self getting ripped up by
not Call of the Wild like you remember. I'm going to bring it back to books because that's what I do. I think of all the the Hemingways of the world, and I think of Jack London and how they prominently featured all this, or more modern books. I'm thinking Alexis, Naomi Novik's Pruded, where it was the character was a forest. But literature. I'm thinking I still read books about plants to this very day.
What was that other book? I don't know if you sent it to me or I sent it to you. Is Dark Window or something like that. And all of the
basically herbology.
All of the names in the book were Latin names for plants. Yes. And if you knew enough about plants and how they're related, you kind of figured out the end, because she paired these families. They have two different last names, but they were both in the same genus, and you figure it out in the end, because you're wait a second, these are, and I was it was so brilliantly done for it didn't ruin anything for anybody, but it gave plant nerds a little extra. Ooh.
I know, that's definitely
one of those track on figuring it out.
It's so specific. It felt like a niche book. In other words, and I think all the magazines, and I'm really dating myself now, is I think about all the actual real world physical magazines of Mom used to go to these flea markets. She knew that I loved old magazines, old and new. It didn't matter if it's National Geo or Good Housekeeping or Southern Living. I loved to look through magazines. One of my favorite things was all the cottagecore stuff. All the cozy looking log cabins with plants on the inside and dried lavender bunches. It's that kind of vibe you got going on. I think of all the magazines. I guess the equivalent now would be all the digital, formats that everything's in.
Pinterest.
Pinterest basically. Yeah, I get on there all the time. I'm looking in for my intensive square foot gardening stuff. But and I love the fact that social media has brought a lot of this stuff, elevated it back. Things ebb and flow, in themes, but I feel like right now we're on kind of a high note for indoor plant spaces and things. If you look at all the content on TikTok or Pinterest, I mean, this stuff is really prominently featured as, things that are commonly searched for, that's kind of comes to the top of things. And I love that. And we've alluded to that on the show before, even with different guests, and they've mentioned, the prominence of plants featured in social media. And I really enjoy that. And,
or even just natural wood and, how it softens a space.
Yeah, we had that cool discussion, with Robinson Center representatives and stuff. And perfect. Bringing the outdoor world in.
Well, hopefully we've unlocked some memories for you people. if you're the troll in Central Park, and I'm immediately gonna figure out
I have to go
how I
back
can
and
own
watch
it
that now,
because I
Alexis.
need
I
to watch it.
barely remember that, and I love the fact you brought that up because now I need to. It's bugging me that I can't get that completely formed in my
There
mind.
was
It's
another one that
awesome.
came out at the same time that was also like featured around Central Park, but like not planty. But it was like dinosaurs, I think is what it was called, or something dinosaurs.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'll
Not the same one. Yeah.
it's not the same one, but it all came out like this. I remember I had all those VHS at like the same time, and I just cycled through them.
Yes, I'm so sad I got rid of most of my VHS collection. I am so sad. I want them back so badly.
So if we have any clear omissions how can these morons not have thought of this
And
one?
there are plenty, I'm sure, and we want to know about them.
Please leave a comment. Send us a comment or leave a comment on Instagram on one of our platforms and let us know. And if we get enough of those, we will do a second episode, an episode 2 featuring all of our errata about the terrible omissions that we made, along with everything else that we think of between now and then. I've already thought of a couple, but I won't spoil it.
Jessica probably has some really good ones too.
Oh,
So
she would have. Yeah,
we'll have to
for
bring them
sure.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys being here, listening. Leave us a review with what we forgot when you leave us your 5 stars. Hopefully, go watch some good movies or read some books that channeled you into the plant life, the plant lifestyle. But we appreciate you being here, and we hope you join us next time. Have a great one.